After weeks of threats, explosions across Iran. Israel striking what it says were dozens of Iranian military and nuclear sites, as well as key officials and scientists. In Jerusalem, air raid sirens sounded. Just hours earlier, President Donald Trump had been asked about the partial withdrawal of US personnel from embassies in the region.
Mr. President, how imminent is an Israeli strike on Iran?
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen.
But the White House had been warning against escalation, and negotiations with Iran over a nuclear deal were set to continue this weekend. Daybreak in Iran revealed destruction in residential areas.
This building where we live blew up. I don't know if they hit it with a missile or what.
Iranian state media reported 2 senior nuclear scientists had been killed, as well as the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the armed forces. Smoke rose over the Natanz uranium enrichment facility, the IAEA saying it had contacted Iranian authorities about radiation levels. Iran's supreme leader has promised severe punishment, saying Iran is left with no choice but to respond.
Eric, the country is already fighting on several fronts. How are Israelis feeling about these attacks?
Absolute shock, Nakari, because this is one of the biggest impacts that Israelis have experienced in the months after October 7. It's not just what you can see behind me with, part of that building missing. The blast wave damage extends for several hundred metres around what is a very densely populated residential area. And Israel's defence minister said yesterday that if Iran targeted residential areas, then Tehran, the Iranian capital, will burn. Already the Israeli military has issued what it called an evacuation order for residents of Tehran living near weapons production facilities. So that tells us that Israel's already broad assault on targets inside Iran is going to be extended further. Well, it's underway. It's happening right now, Thomas. We can hear, we just heard a very large boom. The buildings were shaking. We're hearing multiple interceptions in the skies above and sirens. So this is the promised retribution. It's underway now, and we've been just standing moments earlier amidst the damage from some of that, from one of those strikes. Just one enough to damage multiple buildings. A barrage of Iranian missiles streak through the sky above Tel Aviv. One breaches Israel's air defences. On the ground, civilians rush to evacuate apartment buildings. One is killed, dozens injured, as Iran launches retaliatory attacks on its longtime enemy.
We just heard a very big explosion. Everything was shaking, smoke, dust, everything was all over the place.
Celebrations in Tehran, Iran's supreme leader promising to inflict heavy blows, a day after Israel conducted a devastating offensive. People are receiving alerts saying that another raid is underway. People have been told to take shelter, so everyone's getting off the streets. In Ramat Gan, rescue crews work to free Israelis trapped after a missile fell in a residential area.
Windows now.
I live in a movie.
You're not in a movie. This is real life. This is not normal for us. It's the first time.
The Israeli public's been told it needs to remain on alert for some time and be resilient, because this is not being described as a short operation. It's being more described as a war, and it could last for weeks. By the end, there may be many more scenes like this.
Thousands on the streets of Tehran. And a wave of anger at the deaths of Iran's top military commanders and nuclear scientists in Israel's pre-dawn strike. Iran's military capabilities are greatly diminished by these latest attacks, and its so-called axis of resistance has been severely weakened since October 7. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah dead, the Assad regime in Syria toppled, Hamas degraded in Gaza, and signs Israel is set on nothing less than regime change in Tehran.
Israel's air defences catch most of the missiles and drones fired from Iran, but not all. 2 days after Israel's surprise attack on Iran, Israelis are feeling the force of Iranian retaliation. In the city of Bat Yam, south of Tel Aviv, a missile strike claims several lives. Australia, like most other countries, is urging calm.
The key issue is not is there a threat? There is. We all know that. It's whether or not, in response to it, we increase the risk of regional escalation. And that would have dire consequences to the people of the region.
Israel tested for a third straight night by barrages of Iranian missiles. Some again breaching the country's fabled air defence systems. At this site in central Israel, dozens of people were injured and several killed.
We have one critical patient, and unfortunately, up to now, 3 people have been declared dead on scene.
In Haifa, in the north, more direct hits on an apartment building and an oil refinery, amid threats of more to come. Israel, meanwhile, says it's hit more military sites in Iran and populated areas. Mohammad Kazemi, the country's Revolutionary Guard intelligence chief. He's among more than a dozen military, intelligence and nuclear officials assassinated in Operation Rising Lion.
There is a lot of people that stuck in Cyprus, and there is a lot of people that want to go out from Israel to Cyprus. Now, these days, it's the only way to go out from Israel.
We've spoken to a few people who are that desperate to get out that they are taking up this option. Not only is it quite a bit more expensive, but it is also a very long journey. We're talking more than 20 hours by boat to get to Cyprus. Live on air, a missile strikes Iranian state television. After escaping the blast, this injured reporter is worried about his colleagues. I don't know how many were inside, he says. I don't know how many have died or have been injured. Israel argues the TV centre is a mouthpiece for the regime. The warning sirens went off a couple of hours ago, sending millions of Israelis into shelters, and you can see why. There's some smoke just on the horizon over there where one missile has clearly come into land here north of Tel Aviv.
So, of course, the sirens are just going off here now in Tel Aviv, so we're going to be evacuating, of course, to our shelter. This is the second time that this has happened this evening. We heard an earlier evacuation warning a few hours ago at around 8 o'clock. So we'll just move along to the bomb shelter now. Now, of course, this is part of Iran's retaliatory strikes here on Israel. It's the 6th night of such strikes. And, of course, this is becoming part of daily life, effectively, for people here in Israel. So let's just hop into the bomb shelter here now. Hang on. There we go. Thank you. Hi there. Now, of course, Israel's continued its offensive in Iran. Now, overhead, of course, we're hearing interceptions as well from Israel's Iron Dome that's intercepting ballistic missiles from Iran. Now, both sides have been stepping up their rhetoric as well, especially while the United States weighs up its position.
Okay, we're just in the car heading south of Tel Aviv to Beersheba, where an Iranian missile has hit one of the country's largest hospitals, the Soroka Medical Facility. This is the main hospital in southern Israel. It's an area which takes in a lot of Israeli soldiers who are injured in combat there. It looks like the damage is fairly extensive at this stage. We've seen videos shared on social media of damage in the wards, people walking through dust. Photos also showing large plumes of smoke over the site. Through the dust, the dazed and distraught wander the halls of Soroka Hospital. The medical centre rocked by an Iranian missile as morning broke over Israel.
This is an act of terrorism. The intention was to attack women, babies, sick people.
Iranian state media saying missiles were aimed at a military base nearby. But Israel's Prime Minister is promising to exact the full price from the tyrant in Tehran in response. Warning sirens rang out across the country as Israel's air defences tried to knock the Iranian missiles out of the sky. But some slipped through, hitting in Ramat Gan's Diamond District.
Big boom.
This is the most populated part of Israel. It's clear what the target here is hitting the home front, is hitting the Israeli population here.
In nearby Tel Aviv, residents are evacuated after an apartment building was struck.
trying to get people out of their houses. You can see a house behind me is still on fire.
This direct strike is particularly concerning. Let's give you a bit of a look at the damage that's happened over here. You can see where the missile has hit the top of this building, not only causing damage there, but also the shock waves causing damage to other buildings around it. You can see windows blown out in the area. There is a lot of glass on the ground around where we are standing. You can see just how much damage has been sustained to the building, and you can actually see further up in the top of this building. You can see that there is a ladder in there. There are rescue crews operating throughout the building at the moment, trying to figure out whether or not there are people who are trapped in there at the moment. There have been a number of casualties, a number of fatalities recorded at this site.
Why aren't Iran's allies helping it after these attacks by Israel? The first reason is because Iran is weak. It's for years been putting forward proxy groups around the region like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shia militias in Iraq, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen. It's been supporting them as part of this strategy called forward defence. Basically, it thought of these non-state armed groups as an insurance policy against the day that Iran was ever attacked. But Israel has been slowly dismantling, or in some cases quickly destroying, the arms of these groups.
Blasting off and bound for Israel, Iran fires back at its rival as both sides trade missiles for an 8th day.
Well, I'm at a site in a place called Bat Yam. It's in Tel Aviv, where an Iranian missile hit the other day. It hit on the 6th floor of this residential building, and this site has actually been closed. We couldn't get in here until today because emergency services have still been pulling bodies out of the rubble here, including up until yesterday. At least 6 people were killed at this site, and you can see the kind of damage that's being created here. This is why Benjamin Netanyahu says the IDF is trying to destroy Iran's weapons capabilities, including those nuclear capabilities. He has given an interview to Israeli media overnight, claiming that Israel can by itself effectively put out of action all of Iran's nuclear facilities, including the Fordo facility, which has its operations so far underground. It would need one of those massive bombs to try to stop those operations. He's also suggested that if he can bring down the Iranian regime and continue to target Iran, that it would be helpful in trying to bring back hostages in Gaza, given that Iran is the major backer of Hamas. Well, this is the site of one of the direct hits. This is the building over here where the Iranian missile slammed into about 7:30 this morning. You can see that there has been extensive damage caused not just to the building that was hit, but also around here. Right now, people are just being let back here for the first time to the surrounding areas to try to get some possessions. That's because in these properties around here, they've all been extensively damaged as well. The bomb blast has literally blown out windows and infrastructure. You can see cars and trucks around here as well have been damaged. It's still just been a few hours since this happened, so I think the shock is still setting in here, but we've spoken with a number of people who were here when the missile hit, and they've told us of the terror that they experienced when they were in the bomb shelter, when the lights went out and they heard a big boom.
Everything is like this. We were only in the shelter, and then it was like a very big boom. The lights went out, and a lot of like sand. It was like so scary. We thought it was like in the building.
This is my house. This is my beauty salon. Was.
Wow.
You see all the glasses. It's all destroyed.
Can you tell me what happened this morning?
Yes, at 7 o'clock was the sign. We ran to the shelter, closed the door of the shelters, and after some minutes was a big boom, and the door of the shelters is open.
What did you think when you came out of your bomb shelter and you saw your house has been destroyed?
Yes, but we saved our life.
I can see it's been a really emotional morning.
For you. Very. Yes.
Well, this is just one of the sites that have been hit in this latest barrage, and authorities are saying that no one has been killed, but it is quite remarkable given what you can see there, the direct impact, and that really goes to show the strength and the importance of these bomb shelters, a lot of them here which are underground.
There's like music, there's over there, Okay. All right, here we go. So this is the extreme alert. Put on a show just for you. Are we still going?
People start flooding in after the advance warning is sent to their phones, taking shelter alongside the dozens of now permanent residents of the car park before sirens signifying a strike is underway ring out.
This building in central Tel Aviv was hit just a couple of nights ago. We are right in the heart of the city. Allenby Street is just over here, leading down to the beach. And you can see the disbelief on the faces of people walking up and down here, surveying the damage. It is extensive, not only from the missile itself, but from the debris which has been thrown across this area and the shockwaves blowing out windows for many hundreds of metres. It's moments like this that are really bringing the threat home.
Well, we're here at the site of where one of Iran's retaliatory strikes has hit in Haifa. There's considerable damage where it's clearly struck into this building and an enormous impact has blasted out. We know that at least 3 people have been seriously injured, a teenager and 2 men with shrapnel injuries. At least 14 as well have been mildly injured.
The Israeli society is strong. It supports our operation in Iran strongly.
I see a lot of people, they are injured, a lot of ambulance, police. We are like in a shock.
How did you feel seeing this?
I feel like we are in a war and it's very scary.
Haifa's been hit several times over the last week or so in these retaliatory strikes.
Australia says its embassy staff in Tehran and Tel Aviv are safe and accounted for.
We're essentially trying to get a group of Australians out on an assisted departure flight to the UAE.
This video was captured by construction workers on a building site next to a military base in Tehran. There's chaos after the initial Israeli airstrike, and then another hits. You hear the men calling for their friend, Abdul Wali. In the mayhem, his friends frantically try to revive him, but the 18-year-old from Afghanistan was killed in this strike last week. His father says the young man was in Iran to provide for their family.
It was terrible. We were in a very bad state. When we received the news of his death, we were devastated.
The country's Ministry of Health puts the death toll at about 430, but that includes military personnel. Contacts I've been speaking with on the ground fear many more civilians will be killed if this war continues to escalate.
America has now joined that conflict. We are now going to take you to Tel Aviv.
We haven't heard anything just yet from Israel, noting it is just before 3:30 in the morning here, so everything very quiet. A lot of people around this region will be waking up to the news in a few hours that the US has now conducted these strikes within Iran.
And as the world is waiting to see how Iran responds to this US strike, these US strikes on its nuclear facilities, we are also seeing the Israeli military continue to hit assets across Iran, including at 6 airports in the last short while.
In the days before the US attack, a woman we'll call Farah sent me these videos after an Israeli strike.
My father recorded it the morning after they attacked our neighborhood. One of them was behind our house and they killed many people. I felt so heartbroken to see that kids and young people, they were killed.
Farah fled Tehran with her family, fearing for her life. Now, after the US attack, any safety has been shattered.
This American attack, I can't stop my tears. This is the war. Nobody knows what will happen next. Nuclear leaks, maybe.
It was already hard to talk with people on the ground in Iran.
Foreign journalists are rarely allowed in, the press is tightly controlled, and regime critics are regularly arrested. And since the conflict began, there's been a near total internet and social media blackout. But in pockets of connectivity, I've reached some of my contacts, like Rima, who woke from the sound of the US strikes.
Fordo was a place that Israel couldn't bomb. Trump did it instead.
Israel again waking to the sound of war. At 7:30 local time, just 6 hours after the American strikes, a ballistic barrage struck areas across northern and central Israel. At least 40 missiles were fired according to local media, wounding at least 16. One of the missiles hitting a residential area north of Tel Aviv.
Getting them out, they are communicating with us, and once the Home Front Command is able to get to them, they'll be transported as well to the hospital.
The home of an Australian family living nearby, bearing the brunt, the safe room in their house saving their lives.
What we heard was a massive boom. The whole room shook much more than any other boom that we've had in the last week or in the last 21 months. We heard glass shattering.
They'd hardly had time to process the US's decision to strike Iran when they found themselves in the firing line.
And I saw these alerts that America had gone in and bombed Iran. And I thought, OK, this means trouble for us. We've got to brace ourselves. And then sure enough, an hour and a half later, that's when we got the sirens and this big boom.
Even though the missile didn't hit this property directly, it hit just a short distance away. All of the windows in the house have been completely blown out. If we come through here, you can see that the roof has partially collapsed as well.
Israel's streets are eerily quiet as war with Iran escalates by the day. Those alarms continue to ring out. Following Israel's first strikes on Iran, US President Donald Trump had said he would deliberate for 2 weeks before his next steps.
I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due.
Instead, swift action, bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. Hours later, retaliation in the form of another missile barrage from Iran targeting Israel, hitting a number of buildings across the country.
The house shook, but we're very fortunate that we were in what we call the safe room.
Daniel Berry's home wasn't directly hit, but the blast nearby blew out most of its window. As we were talking to Alon, we too had to seek refuge.
So we received an advance warning that a missile strike was coming in just as we were having a chat. So we've come over here to this school to use their shelter. It is available to the public, something which isn't necessarily the same right across the country.
Cramming into the small, stuffy space with limited, if any, phone signal. Locals waiting inside for the all clear.
You see how full it is, like there is not really enough space for everybody.
So Iran is labelling this the Annunciation of Victory operation. They say they've launched a series of missiles at the United States base in Qatar. It's located just out of Qatar. It's called the Al Udeid base near the capital. It is the United States' largest military base in the Middle East. So that is significant. It houses about 10,000 personnel. We have heard from sources on the ground that about 20 booms were heard in the sky, interceptions in the sky as these rockets were fired overhead. Those sources have also told the ABC that all personnel had been cleared.
The Iranian response to these US strikes is likely to continue in the form of missile barrages against Israel. We are currently seeking shelter, like millions across the country, as a nationwide alert has just been issued. A regime which seemingly dashed hopes of a lasting ceasefire in just 2.5 hours, leaving stranded Aussies uncertain when they might eventually head home. I think a lot will depend on what happens in the next couple of hours or so, but the fact that Iranian missiles have been detected in the north of this country, up near the Lebanon border and near the city of Haifa, does seem to suggest that this situation is deteriorating very quickly. The Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, promising that there is going to be swift and strong retaliation.
The former professor who regularly posted content critical of the Iranian regime has gone missing.
Supporting the Islamic Republic has never brought us peace or security.
Since the start of the war, I've been getting reports from my contacts on the ground who are regime opponents that the crackdown on dissent has become even more brutal.
It's enough for them to label you with like, you are a spy, you are working for Israel, you are American spy, then they kill you easily.
The human rights group Hengor has documented 530 people arrested for alleged anti-regime sentiment during the war.
Having justice.
Back in Australia, many are worried for their loved ones in Iran. Aymaneh Parisi fled Iran 11 years ago. Her daughter, who was already married, stayed.
I fear that my daughter will die of stress and fear even before her house and family are bombed.
Intelligence now cited by the United States matches Israeli assessments that Iran's nuclear program has been set back by years.
But here, with the interceptions high above, the debris is falling directly onto Palestinian villages and towns. And these people here don't have an early warning system or any shelters to protect them.
The success of a fragile ceasefire likely depends on a diplomatic resolution between Iran and America. There's such a sense of grief and shock here, but also anger. People here have told me that for a village of 40,000 people, there isn't a single public bomb shelter.
This ceasefire was only hours old before Israel accused Iran of violating it. What happened?
The Israeli Defense Force detected, or says it detected, Iranian missiles entering Israeli airspace. The country's chief censor has issued some rules to try to limit what sort of information we can share with you about the impact of missile barrages from Iran.
Continued.
So we've just got those sirens going off again and we can hear the interceptions happening above the hotel.
Attacking Iran was a bold move by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been facing an increasingly angry Israeli public, fatigued by conflict and failures over getting Israeli hostages out of Gaza. But there was overwhelming support for the Iran war, even as 28 Israelis were killed and thousands more lost their homes. So was Netanyahu's 12-day war enough to keep him atop his political throne?
So I see the disaster.
Where were you when the missile hit?
In the basement, in the shelter. The missile hit over there. So we are 150 meters from there. Okay, you must say we have been lucky.
Menachem city of Bat Yam is a Netanyahu stronghold, so his opposition for this war is in the minority. Polling across the country shows a staggering 82% of Jewish Israelis backed Israel's ambush on Iran. People here told us they felt Israel was taking this fight on for the good of the world and for their own security.
We should not let the enemy to build capabilities that might be used one day to distract Israel.
It's just days after the Iran ceasefire and already Israelis are back on the streets protesting against their government. The security failures of the October 7 Hamas attacks are not quickly forgotten here. And these people are angry that after almost 2 years of fighting in Gaza, there is still no ceasefire. While normalcy returns to Israel and the fragile ceasefire with Iran holds, for now, will he use the success of one war to end another? The conflict with Iran may have been popular, but it may not have helped Netanyahu, King Bibi, Israel's longest-serving leader, keep his grip on power.